Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Brian's Logic, Arwin, 10th Man, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, good morning.
What's happening?
Oh, wow, what an enthusiastic bunch.
What a beginning.
What a great start. Wonderful, wonderful. Any evidence of axial rotation? And don't all start saying hello when I've said how crap you all are and then started asking a housekeeping question. Come on, play the game.
Well, he was complaining.
Yeah, just do it. Let's just do it continually instead. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Hello. Negative.
Hello.
No, nada.
Oh, is that it? That's the answer I'm getting. Oh, wonderful.
Well, they've never proven that. They do a bunch of pendulum things to say, see? No, I don't see.
Any evidence of the R value then? Earth radius.
Well,
Not
that would be a
reality.
necessity.
Oh, it's presupposed.
I know it's presupposed, but is there any evidence of a physical measurement of an R value to base the premise that they're presupposing on?
Well, there's a guy who stood on top of a mountain and said he had a tangent line to the horizon, and that proved the R value.
Well, technically, you can't measure the radius. You could only measure the circumference and then calculate the radius. So, you're not going to dig to the center of the Earth and then put a ruler there, right?
How would you measure the circumference then, Arwin?
I'm not sure if either one of
Well,
these.
you just measure the flat plane and then presuppose it's a sphere.
Yeah. To measure an R value for a globe Earth, the only way you can do it is the way that Alberuni claimed to do it. Because obviously Eratosthenes, the way it was claimed he did it, you couldn't do it because he's using an elevation angle, which is a horizontal baseline. So between him and the GP point of the sun, that's not going to work. But if you want to measure the R value of a sphere, and you're actually on a sphere, then the only way to do it is via a tangent to the horizon. But the horizon has to be a geometric location, a geometric edge of that sphere. But it's not. The horizon is an optical location. It's not geometric. It's not consistent.
Well,
So,
it's still going to on top of that, it's still also based on the assumption that the celestials are consistent and that therefore reliable in order to presuppose that it is spherical, right? On top of that measurement of a tangent. But the measurement of the tangent in itself wouldn't prove that the entire Earth would be spherical like that, even if you would find such a measured tangent, right?
well, it would
They use the
because
stars to claim that consistency because the stars will rotate consistently as you move a similar distance.
Above a flat
yeah,
plane.
but
I was just going to say,
that's
he's talking about the consistency of the flat plane elevation angle measurements, giving you a consistency to convert it to spherical. That's what I just said from Arwin. because it's so consistently flat and you can always measure it, and the stars' positioning you can line up and predict for hundreds of years in advance. So therefore, because it's so predictably flat and the stars interact with that flat plane so consistently, you can make it a sphere, Arwin. Sorry, Brian, I just had to drop that in.
Well, that's another way of putting it, which is very sensible. I'm not even trying to be a Bowen here. It's just that the consistency of how the stars rotate as you move over the surface is a thing. Now, whether what you think what you're walking on is spherical or curved or something, the celestials are consistent.
We got all that.
What do you mean it's a thing?
Hold on, Neil. I've interrupted Arwin after interrupting. I've interrupted Brian after interrupting Arwin to summarise his point, which is to say it's consistently flat, therefore you can consistently turn it into a sphere. But I'm sure Brian's itching to actually respond to it. It's me that interrupted. Sorry, Brian.
Yeah, well, there's nothing to respond to. My point was different altogether. Is that if the Earth was a sphere, then the horizon has to be the geometric edge of that sphere. There is no way for it not to be, because the Earth can't have a non-geometric horizon on a sphere. It can't have that. So when Al-Biruni went up that mountain in Iran or wherever it was, or Afghanistan, to measure a dip angle to the horizon, if that horizon was in a horizontal with the water at the base of the mountain, which it was, and if that horizon moved further and closer to Al-Biruni, which it does, then the Earth is not a sphere. Because if the Earth was a sphere, that horizon could not do that. It would have to be at all times geometric.
Hey, Brian, did you ever read on the Al-Biruni thing why he went up to measure it? They made it a whole religious thing, whether he existed or not, that he would make sure that they were facing Mecca when they prayed. So that's why he went about performing this so-called measurement.
No, I never bothered with any of that. It was only the geometry I was interested in and the process. I never bothered with any. I know they said he was they call him the godfather of geodesy. So the guy could have been an absolute legend in reality. Well, they just hijacked his legendary status and claimed he did this stupid thing that he might never have done. Do you know what I mean? So the guy could have been very real and very smart and intelligent, but they just could have taken his persona, a public persona or a historical persona, and just hijacked it, because that's what they do with everything. Same with Eratosthenes. He could have been a very real person too, but what he did was not what they claimed he did. They just hijack everything. They hijack people. They hijack they hijack natural effects. They can't stop hijacking stuff because they have to.
Well, there's no proof that Al-Biruni actually believed it was a ball. He might have just done the measurement because he was ordered to do that or bought to do that, right? Let's go there and measure that curve for us. Do the measurement for us. But he might have been like, yeah, okay, I'll measure your curve on this flat plane. Sure. He might have just known.
He still needed the horizontal. He still needed a horizontal of his eye line at the top of the mountain as a reference. So it's between two horizontals. The dip. It's like John says. It's a differential.
You know what? Real quick, speaking of that deception, I don't know if anybody else saw, but I have been viewing Globe Boy's TikTok things, and he has this thing where he calls himself proving that we don't know what we're talking about as far as the horizontal level, parallel to the baseline and everything. So he has this graphic, typical CGI illustration where he has a skyscrapers, like a bird's eye view of skyscrapers, and he has this supposedly linear horizontal line casting from a rooftop of a skyscraper parallel to the so-called horizon. And as he's taking that line out, they grow it where it goes up into the sky, as if to say that we're trying to claim that our parallel lines at any altitude our horizontal level baseline does not go parallel with the realistic flat baseline horizontal level of the sea and the terrain of the earth. So they basically take the parallel line above, and they go and it looks like they're going straight, but they're actually taking it up in the sky in the clouds. You got to see it. Matter of fact, I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna put it onto the into the main chat.
This is.
Go on, Brian.
Just 1 second. Yeah. There's several problems there. Number one, the reason it's going up into the sky is because he's presuming that it's a globe. So it could not go up into the sky. Secondly, that idiot is arguing against celestial navigation, right? With a bubble sector.
Exactly.
And third, this guy is such a fool that he argued against the existence of angular size change. Things getting smaller with distance. Why don't waste your time with that guy? He's desperate. He's twisting and turning, trying to make himself relevant. I can't describe the level of idiot that this guy is.
Okay, we're going to get onto a couple of videos today. The first being Make It Stop by Bill Whittle. The channel's Bill Whittle. I don't know, do we want to actually let this guy know we responded to him 10th?
Yeah, because he's in the political genre, but all of a sudden he jumped into the flat earth, I think, here. And I thought you were going to go the other one first, but it's okay. You can go either way, I guess.
Either way, I mean, shout out to Godzilla 37. I went up the mountain, measured to the horizon, and now I know Jupiter is a gas giant. I mean, I skipped the bits in between. We can fill in those bits in the sequel, Unicorns in Space 2. Very good. Thank you for the super chat, Godzilla 37. Speaking of support, or not necessarily super chats, but previously I still am actually technically running a GoFundMe campaign, which was for some very old studio amps that I bought back when I was a rep that were very expensive, really nice amps, but just got old and keep breaking. And so as a consequence, I ran a GoFundMe, which didn't do very well and was quickly usurped by a different GoFundMe for Chocolate Saying, not that I begrudge him in any way, I'm not moaning. But in either way, that kind of fell on its arse and sort of stopped, which is a bit of a shame because it's something I'm stressing about, because I just know they're going to go pop again, even though I've had them repaired numerous times. Anyway, the guy bought this passive PC that's sat right next to me now, making zero noise during all of the shows, which is fantastic. Dropped a fairly large chunk of cash on me yesterday, so I was actually able to order one of those amps, which is fantastic. So of the 3 amps that I'm hoping to replace, I've at least got one, which means that at the bare minimum, the show will always go on, providing that one doesn't go bang, which I would hope not, as it's brand new. But I ordered that yesterday. So if any of you did support that GoFundMe campaign and you thought, oh, I haven't heard anything about that, I have actually ordered one of those amplifiers now, which is great, because it means that hopefully I'll get at least a couple of years at the very minimum out of those, which is more than I get out of the current amps that are about 13 years old, because they keep going bang, as I say. So I'm very, very pleased to Paul. Thank you very much indeed, Paul, who's actually one of the mods and he's in the Discord server at the moment. So really, really appreciate the support. It's things like that that give me such joy in doing the job, because it means I don't when it comes to things like this, they get sorted even when I'm absolutely penniless, which is the case here. It's so tempting to just keep this cash, but because I'm broke. But by the same token, it's like I know why I want that cash. Same reason I put in the GoFundMe campaign, which is to say, without that particular piece of equipment, if a couple of them go bang, I'm often in a position, or have been in the past, where I can't run the show. I haven't got enough amps to make the speakers work, to make the show work. And that's not the case the second, but it often is, and does go that way very quickly with old amplifiers. But anyway, I'm just very, very pleased to let you know that of the 3 I'm hoping to replace, at least I've ordered one of them. But that, I don't know if maybe one of the moderators can post the GoFundMe campaign, as I'm ideally hoping to replace all 3 of them. But that would be the absolute ideal, and at the minimum, what I was hoping to do, and did put this in the campaign, was to get at least one. So I know that the show will always be running, at least from an amplification point of view, instead of constantly churning bloody repairs that are really expensive. Anyway, thank you very much to Paul. Shout out to you, really appreciate it. And obviously another shout out to all of you who have supported the GoFundMe campaign up until now, as it has been basically successful. That is a success. As soon as I order something that is needed for the show, specifically for the show, I'm obviously over the moon, because it means one less thing to worry about in terms of a financial burden that the show is, which it is, unfortunately. It's just the way of these things. Anyway, thank you very much also again to Godzilla 37 for the super chat. Right, unless there's any other reason, we'll get on with a bit of this Make It Stop video.
Well, guys, I want to do this one a little differently because I need some help on something here. Usually we have some issue to talk. It's something to talk about. And Steve, what do you think? And Scott, what do you think? And I think this, and there we go. This one I think is going to need to be a little more back and forth because it's been something I've been seeing a lot of, and it's really starting to worry me. Daily Wire.
When does this get in? Do I need a timestamp, or is that it for the intro 10th?
No, you need the whole context. Just stop because you have to, and then keep
when
going.
they released the first episodes of the Cold War, they put up on YouTube the first episode of Apollo 11, What We Saw, and they titled it, Did We Really Go to the Moon? That was not the original title of the segment, but they basically did it to get some traction. And I looked at the comments on this, and the first day was from Daily Wire viewers. They were the first to hear it, and they were just couldn't be nicer, just fantastic.
Hey, Bill, let's stop for a moment because people watching this for the first.
Okay, who are they talking about? They're talking about somebody that didn't release a video under the title, Did We Go to the Moon? I'm a bit confused already.
First time. Bill created this series, Apollo 11.
Beg your pardon. Yes, sorry. Yes, for those of you who may not.
He hosted as well.
So 2019, Daily Wire asked me to do a history of they asked me to do something on the 50th anniversary of the moon landing in July of '69.
Just have a quick, while he's saying this, there's a different tramp stamp under this. Yeah? So
no, this is the guy who did the 50th anniversary, and he's mad about something he's going to bring up. That's why he shows Whittle make it stop.
Okay. I'm just reading the tramp stamp. It says, Apollo Moon Landing Project, conducted by the U.S. National Aeronautical and Space Administration in the 1960s and 70s. The Apollo program was announced in May 1961. But the choice among, and that's it. That's all the tramp stamp says. Doesn't really confirm, other than the title itself of Moon Landing with a hyphen. Doesn't say they did. It doesn't say they didn't. It's like a very bland tramp stamp. Just interesting.
So I did Apollo 11, What We Saw. I think it's the best work I ever did. I'm very proud of it. It was a 4-part series. They ran the first episode and titled it, Did the Moon Landing Occur, Yes or No?
Okay, let's just answer that. No, it didn't. Because to travel to the moon would involve traveling via the pressure that we all breathe, the gas, into an area of volume the gas isn't filling in violation of natural law, second law of thermodynamics to be specific. So you traverse the gas into the second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum to then take a journey to the moon. No, that didn't happen. The entire journey was a second law of thermodynamics violation. There is no sky vacuum to travel to the moon through, so the Apollo moon landing mission is a complete sham. It's fake. It's obviously fake. You just have to look at the footage. You don't need to know the second law of thermodynamics to see that it's using backdrops and men on trapeze. High wire. That's what it is. It's a stage. It's very obviously a stage using very obvious 1960s and 70s stage technology.
Hello, my name's Nick, and I designed this lightweight tartan work shirt. Okay.
That episode is not all of the argument. There's a lot of argument in the following 3 episodes, but it's not the point, because it's not even really about the moon landing. But let me just tell you what happened. So the first day's comments were lovely, and then I checked them this morning, and somehow the moon landing never happened crowd got a hold of it. And there were a lot of negative comments about me, which
I can't understand the context of this sentence. The moon landing never happened, got a hold of it. Is that like a working title or a production company or a person? I don't understand. The way this guy speaks is terrible.
actually didn't bother me in this case. Usually they bother me, but this case, there was a bigger issue here. And it was just again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Didn't happen, didn't happen, didn't happen, didn't happen. I was trying to find a common thread.
Okay, tell
Okay, you gotta realize he was the guy who put together the documentary and 4-part series about the moon landing. All of a sudden, in his comment section, people are saying it didn't happen, didn't happen, didn't happen. And he's prideful of his work, said it was the best he ever did. So he's about to react to it. And this is what makes this fantastic. You can't handle it.
Here. And clearly the didn't happen crowd were being motivated by emotion because the some of the evidence that they listed to support their never happened thing, I saw this 7 or 8 times. It didn't happen because who was holding the camera to film Neil coming down the ladder?
2015, such a long time ago it seems. Who's holding the camera No. Get up to date with the flat Earth debate, my friend. Second law of thermodynamics violation, sky vacuum, would be where they had to traverse. It's akin to saying, let's worry about who shot the lion lying on the altar in Narnia. How did they get that shot? No. How did they go through a wardrobe to get to Narnia? Well, the wardrobe is the, atmosphere, sphere-shaped air, oxymoron, air not expanding into a sky vacuum? That's the wardrobe. You have to go through the wardrobe, so you have to go through the gas pressure into the sky vacuum. Narnia is not real, and neither is outer space. Outer space is not a real place. So how can you traverse a fake place to get to Narnia, the moon in this case? Now, the moon's real, but getting to it via a sky vacuum isn't. As for who took the pictures...
You got me on that one, Scooter. I guess we weren't smart enough to figure that one out. You know, for those of you who are playing the home version, there's a little panel on one of the sides of the lunar module that popped open specifically to show this picture. So when that's your only evidence, and somebody says the chances of it were 6 trillion to 1, and we tried it 6 times, where'd you come up with that number?
So you're saying they can't imagine a selfie stick, basically?
He's saying that the Hasselblad camera that's on the front of the suits that they took the pictures with shouldn't work, from what I get gleaned so far. Likewise, you could say, how can you get a transmission from a joystick at control center in wherever it would be Cape Canaveral at the time to transmit a signal with delay via some satellite relay in Australia up to the moon to control the remote control camera to film them returning from the moon to the LEM, or LM, or whatever they call it, the orbiter. How did they get that shot? Well, they've got a whole bullshit narrative that's there to overcome these objections. Oh, well, we timed it and we didn't actually get most of the return images very well because we timed it badly. But one of them we got really well. We timed it really perfectly. And we tilt the camera, then 2, 5, 10 seconds later it receives the signal. Then it tilted the camera just as they were taking off. And you see the little bit of string that's pulling it up. It's just like, what a joke. If you attack it from this angle, there's always going to be some story that the liar can tell you. If you throw natural law at them, where are they going to go after that? Well, I'll tell you, because we've experienced it here on Flat Earth Debate. When you point out that the law of nature that is the second law of thermodynamics simply violates the idea of us having a sky vacuum, they'll say that the second law of thermodynamics, that's natural law, does not apply to the Earth model. That's what they'll tell you. I've been told it personally. So, what, this law of nature doesn't apply to our nature if we assume it's a ball? Yeah, nature still has the laws of nature applicable, though. Therefore, the space vacuum that you think that this journey is taking place in isn't real. That's it. That's the end of the argument. You can't argue with natural law or present some new story.
It's funny you mention that. It's funny you mention that because when I was thinking about the reply to this, right, I thought, have you ever taken a picture with a camera that you brought with you, set it up, set the timer, and then gotten in the picture? Have you ever appeared in a picture with your own camera? Have you ever started a camera and a video and then walked into frame? Have you ever done that too?
It ain't rocket science.
So look, I spent a lot of time.
What's his point? I don't get it.
Really?
What's
No,
his point?
this is great because he's in the begging of the question. He's already got people thinking, listen, you've done it with the selfie, right? So that all they had was this thing coming out of it doing the selfie of Neil walking down the ladder. He's already got you on the moon, a violation of the second law. This is a fantastic teardown that's going to happen soon.
Hold on. Can I? First of all, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
What I just heard, is he trying to set up the excuse of, oh, the camera was already set up before Neil got out of the spacecraft?
There was a pocket door on the side of the LEM, and it opened up, and the Hasselblad was there ready to go. It's a selfie. What's wrong? You do it all the time, Chocolate. Come on, get with it. We went to the moon.
Wow.
Sorry,
That's
but I don't disbelieve that. I've got no issue if you said to me, okay, we're going to send, let's say it's Antarctica. Doesn't matter what it is, but let's just say somewhere that we know to be remote and difficult to negotiate. Okay, fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to send a drone, a modern day drone, down to Antarctica. But inside the drone, we're going to put a man. And when it gets there, the drone will land, a camera will pop out the side, and it will film the man coming out, climbing down the ladder. Yeah, okay, I accept all of it. What's that you say? But this drone travelled through a wardrobe, through Narnia, and then landed. But we're going to worry about whether it could take a picture when it landed rather than whether or not it can traverse wardrobes and enter Narnia. Or in this case, traverse the gas pressure and enter space akin to Narnia. And I don't care whether or not the cameras can work. You can come up with all the stories in the world about how NASA were really clever. Look, they can put people in space. Do you not think they can take a selfie? Is maybe where this is going. And it's like, oh, maybe they can take selfies in very remote locations. So long as the remote locations are real. In this case, they're not.
But this is the point of this video, and what for people to learn is that they'll take something that is doable, they'll attach it to something that is not doable, and they already got you on the moon.
It's a type of fallacy called an affirming the consequent. It's a formal, logical fallacy. If P, then Q. Q, therefore P. If men can travel to the moon, then they'll be able to take selfies on the moon. Men have taken selfies on the moon. Therefore, men can go to the moon. That's the fallacy that's being employed in this regard. Like the one...
what's funny about that, though?
Hold on. The fallacy being the one isn't necessarily connected to the other. Men's ability to take selfies, automated, off the side of a truck, by comparison, doesn't prove that the truck can go to Narnia. That's the point of the fallacy. So being able to take the picture, yeah, who cares? Go ahead, Chocolate.
I was just gonna say what's funny about that argument that you just made, right? Oh, they sent people to the moon. You don't think that they could take a selfie, right? But they reverse that when you bring up things like the ISS. Like when you ask for footage of the ISS being built while in space, because that's their claim, they'll reverse it and say, well, they don't have to show that to you. They don't have to film it. Why is there no film of the ISS being built while in space, while people are moving around at 17,500 miles per hour? Why is there no film? Oh, they don't need to. They don't have to do that. So they just reverse the claim whenever they want. Just an excuse.
I'm thinking about how I would debunk this, and I sent a text to Jeremy saying, dude, you ought to get the biggest moon landing denier in here and have a jury of our peers and just treat it like a court case. But this isn't the point. This isn't the point. And this is not what's upset me so much. What's upset me so much is that a consistent thread through this was that NASA has to be lying because NASA's part of the government, and the government always lies about everything, and therefore this couldn't possibly be real.
It's the wrong way around. No, that isn't the way around that this would work. The way it would work is people get wise to NASA lying based on evidence like the fact that you can't have a sky vacuum, and then realise that they are part of the government and therefore there's a good chance the government are lying on multiple levels, therefore not to be trusted. So it's the effect after the cause rather than the cause after the effect, as he's detailed it. Because the effect is going to be people realising that they've been lied to on a massive scale. Now, if you want evidence of this, go to Haunted House and watch Conspiracy Cats being interviewed and describing how he would have to contemplate the very nature of the lies the rest of the world has around it if it's true that the Earth is flat. Well, it's the same principle. If we find out that NASA are lying and can be demonstrably shown to be lying, then, by virtue of their connections, they and their connected, affiliated government base cannot be trusted. That's why we are suppressed. So he's kind of got he's got the right idea, but he's got it the wrong way around.
And to me, that sounds like people who would self-identify as conservatives. And I'm seeing a lot of this now. I'm seeing a lot.
Thank you, sir. Crap. When I tell you that you can't travel through a wardrobe, by analogy, because there is no wardrobe and there is no Narnia, and likewise, you can't travel through the gas pressure into a sky vacuum. It violates a law of nature. What are you going to do? Turn around and say, these people who refer to natural laws, They're just bloody liberals. Is that what you're going to do? Because it doesn't matter what I believe in politically when I use natural law to debunk the sky vacuum. It doesn't matter.
Nathan, would that be genetic fallacy?
Yes,
Origin of something.
Yes, in other words,
Okay.
demean the person who's giving you the argument in terms of their position or standing, rather than the argument itself.
Also, it just sounds emotional. Like when I got in kind of late, and the first thing I heard him say was that the guys that he's having this thing with, they're emotional. But you just heard him say it. This is upsetting me. This is very emotional for him. You could hear it in his voice. He almost sounds like he wants to cry.
Well, it's emotional because he was instructed to do the 50-year anniversary 4-part film series on Apollo 11. So it's his finest work. Chocolate.
Depends
His
when.
finest work.
How old is this video, Ten? Do you know offhand?
I have to look. I think it's recent.
3 days
so
ago.
you know why, right?
3 days ago.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you why. Because we are taking major steps in flat earth debate, tearing down the walls, and it's what we're doing here that's causing all of this nonsense to go on. They have to prove their nonsense now. See, it's a threat. Flat earth is a threat.
Could I just say that what annoys me the most about these types of videos with guys like this guy is they want to stand there like they're in a position of knowledge and authority and tell you about what happened when they went to the moon. Like, you haven't got a clue. You couldn't tell me what's happening in El Salvador today. Never mind what supposedly happened on the moon. Who do you think you are to stand there in some kind of a position of authority?
Let me answer. Who does he think he is? You know when people say, we went to the moon, he thinks he's the we.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, dear.
It's that sports mentality.
Yeah, so when you're saying, well, he's defending they, he's part of that they. He thinks when you attack the idea of a moon landing, you're attacking him personally because it's we, including him, that went to the moon. And how dare you decry my achievement and my work that I've put in documenting the bullshitters. Embarrassing.
Why does everybody...
Hold on a second. Shout out to Godzilla37. Shout out to Divergent Droid. Hope he's well. The chat misses him. Thank you for the super chat, Godzilla.
I was just going to say, why does everybody, when it comes to the moon and the moon landing, why does everybody turn French with this we shit?
Because it's everybody being prideful of their work that they've done. And because of the way they compartmentalized it in the first instance, there's plenty of people who feel that they have directly influenced going to the moon. The fact that we didn't go is inconsequential to the guy who's built a booster rocket or clever valve to operate the fuel or something like that. They've been a great engineer, they've done their job, and they're very proud of it. And why wouldn't they be? In terms of their technical prowess and achievements in engineering. You should go to the moon with it.
It's crazy because that's what they said to me on Gem Panda Saturday too. Told me take a look at how we went to the moon and stuff like that. Wow.
A lot of people who are normally sensible people whose knee-jerk reaction is to say that if
3 reasons my dermatologist loves this soap. Dr. Squatch is a high-quality soap made with...
Look, I could put this in a nutshell, right? If Joe Biden walks outside and it's raining, and Joe Biden says, oh, it's raining, then there's some people's response be, no, it isn't. Right?
They could be soaking wet, and they would say...
The straw man. Right, so he's built up a little straw man. People say we didn't go to the moon because of a political opinion. They don't like the government and say the government lied to them, therefore the government is the moon landing, and therefore the moon landing is a lie. And now he's taking apart that straw man. This is pathetic.
They know it isn't.
Is it? Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think I understand the psychology of this. I think the psychology is the psychology of a dog that has been just kicked so often and lied to so often. You know, we've been so mistreated by the press, been so accused of racism and all this other stuff that you get to this level of.
Nah, not me. I didn't influence myself with the TV for many years. I think I stopped watching the news at about 12, completely disregarded it. So I've got no hard feelings towards this. I don't feel like a beaten down dog. I just know that space violates the second law of thermodynamics. I'm a rational man. I don't feel any bitterness towards the lying bastards that are the scum that you feel have downtrodden the downtrodden dogs. I'm just not one of them. Yeah, I'm not a downtrodden dog. I just know that space is fake.
But meanwhile, he's the one sitting there whimpering. Like, what? This guy, I'm like Brian. This guy has some audacity. Like, he doesn't even sound like he knows what he's talking about at all within the ridiculous narrative. Like, are you serious with this guy? Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's all right. The beauty of this is we hear this all the time. I mean, with our friends, when it comes to flat earth and other things, violations of the laws of nature. So it's really good because this guy's coming from, you know, the political situation, the downtrodden, and, you know, they're just in this mindset to where they just want to revolt. No, I get it. Okay, so what's he contrasting that to? Joe Biden comes out and says it's raining, but then one of these people come out and says, no, it's not raining. I mean, that is so stupid. As the straw man of straw mans, he can't handle it.
I don't see it that way. I see it as he's admitting that his own government have openly lied to people in recent times, never mind going into the past. And people have no trust in them because the government keep treating them like they're stupid and keep lying to them. But he's saying, but you can trust this thing. Like, what? And he's kind of attacking people for being defensive. Look, why would you not be defensive if you feel you've been lied to on a grand scale time and time again? And he's telling them, but this thing is not a lie. It's like, sorry, lad, everything is a possible lie if they're willing to lie to us about all those other things. You know what I mean?
No,
it's like
just snapping at things, and it's dangerous, it's unhealthy, and it's worrisome. So when you see the vitriol that's directed at the idea that this thing that happened, I see signs of society just really coming apart, and not just the progressives this time.
Don't project. You can't cope with it. That doesn't mean society's going to fall apart just because you can't cognitively cope with the idea that it hasn't happened. And everyone's telling you it happened. And that's very troubling to you. Yeah, just because you won't be able to cope with it doesn't mean society will fall apart, you pathetic old twat.
Now
It's dangerous, Nathan. It's dangerous. It's unhealthy. Society's going to fall apart. I did a 4-part series. It has to be true.
The guy sounds scared, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Like, do you hear it in his voice?
Pure
is
projection.
It just me?
Absolutely. He's fearful in the same way Katz was fearful. That I would appreciate that there's a lot of lies in society would be a more accurate description. Society won't fall apart. Most of society appreciates at some level that they're being lied to on a scale that they just don't appreciate. But that doesn't mean that the society that you know will fall apart when you appreciate that you've been lied to. You just appreciate that you've been lied to. Now, reasonable and rational men will walk away from the liars. Not sit whimpering and telling everybody that society's going to fall apart. Pull yourself together. Pathetic. My God. Shout out to Flat Earth Travolta. He says, I miss the days when ballers would come here. Rumpus, where are you? Rumpus got banned for being a liar. When he flat out lied about the geometric horizon and its necessity when debating over the Isle of Man and the physical limitation at the horizon and how you know things are refracted because of their position with respect to the horizon, to then later say, no, it was always refracted, and then deny it 3 times when I played him back his quote. At that point, he's just a liar. So Rumpus wasn't welcome back ever after that. Pure deceit, pure lies. As for the rest of them, they've all come and gone. They've all been defeated, including Rumpus. So why would you want them back? They've all had their asses handed to them. Name a baller that you'd want to see here, type their name in, and they'll have been here already. Had their asses handed to them and then shown the door. Thank you for the super chat, Flat Earth Travolta. Really appreciate the support.
I would consider to be normally sensible people who are determined that it can't have happened because NASA said it did.
That's not what we concluded. This is 3 days ago. Sorry, no. We didn't conclude because NASA. That's a crap argument. Do you think anybody in their right mind, Mr. Wide-eyed, terrified, oh no, it might not be true, would accept me coming up to you and saying that we hadn't discovered a certain continent because the government said we discovered it? No, nobody in their right mind would accept that. However, if you say that the place they say we're going, that light in the sky, isn't capable of being visited because you'd have to traverse a sky vacuum that would leave us all dead and with no gas to breathe. If that isn't us just saying, well, NASA said it. Is that really the standard that anybody's actually presented this amount? Show me some of the quotes where someone said, the moon landing's fake simply because NASA said it was true. Show me somebody that said that. And anybody who read it, if you do show it me, that took any credence to it. That's just a crap argument. It's a straw man that you're pulling apart here. Like anybody's made that crap of an argument to him. Just a liar. What a load of crap. Who in their right mind would accept that as an argument in the affirmative for the debunking of the moon landing? It's simply not true because NASA said it. Nobody's going to put that argument forward. They'd be laughed out of town if they presented it in that way. It's just a joke. It's just a straw man so he can pull it apart. It's pathetic.
Yeah, but look at the argument he used with Joe Biden. I mean, anybody that could fog a mirror can tell that Joe Biden doesn't know where he is half the time, can't formulate coherent sentences. But that's the guy he used as some sort of an argument against anybody against him. I mean, that not to bring it politically, but that kind of shows you where he's at. So anything else that comes out of his mouth, any other nonsense, won't surprise me at all.
As Travolta says, but what if we want to hear them get their asses handed to them again? Okay, well, you can go back and listen to repeats, or ask yourself, why aren't we being shut down in the metaphorical sense of the word by everyone, always, all day, when we've got an open door policy? What do we actually get? Oh, Nathan will mute me. That's their defense. All right, no, people
we
would
get
have...
these.
Go on, lotion basket.
Yeah, my bad. Well, we get these oversensitive people that as soon as they hear something they don't know, they discount you. They hide in their little shells.
Yeah.
They don't want to be told they're wrong. They don't want to be told everything they know is wrong. But they get too... I tell them, don't be bitch. Just don't be bitch. And we'll be fine. We can have a conversation as to why these things are false. And then you can do some research if you decide. But it's like they're afraid to even find out for themselves.
Yeah, like this guy. They're terrified of the consequences that they might have to face if they consider it as real. Much easier, with a trembling voice, to say they're all wrong and the argument that their moon landings are fake because NASA said it. Oh yeah, that sounds like a really easy to debunk straw man now, doesn't it?
And NASA's part of the government, and the government's lying to us.
We heard it the first time, mate. It was crap the first time. It's crap when you reiterated it. I've got quite annoyed with you for trying to burn this straw man. I've said it's pathetic. People have pointed out the whimper and tremble in your voice. Yeah, we've heard it.
It's about everything, and so therefore, boom. And it's not just in the moon landing. I'm seeing this in a lot of different arenas.
Right, so you're trying to lend credibility to this crap straw man by saying you've seen it in other people's comment section too. Other people have said this crap argument in regards to other things that the government put forward. Oh, well, if the government are putting it forward, then it's obviously... nobody else is putting this argument forward. It's just a crap straw man that you're trying to lend credence to.
Now, where it is a reflexive...
Why are you stuttering? Why? Because you're lying. That's why he's stuttering away. Because he knows it's not true.
Reaction to automatically say, well, if Joe Biden says it's raining, then...
We heard this too. We've already heard this, right? Do you need to say it 3 times to make it seem credible? Yeah? While you stutter around it. Fair enough. On with the video. This show is ace. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate it.
then it's got to be sunny, even if he's standing out in the rain, right? So that's it.
The angle I've noticed on this is over in the comment.
Indeed, chocolate, which is wow. 115 people watching though. We may extend the show.
Well,
never know. If we get 225.
Can I say
Just one
something?
Just one sec. If we get 225 watching, we'll extend the show. So please share the show. Go ahead, whoever that was.
So he's got a conservative viewer base who obviously is against Joe Biden. He uses Joe Biden in the straw man. And then he can't believe how the conservative base would even think that the moon landing is wrong. I mean, have you lost your mind, your conservative voter base? That's where he's coming
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah,
sorry, Tim, I thought you were done. The thing is, usually people that are doing this, they're doing that themselves. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So it's usually like, I think there's a psychological term I can't think of, projecting. They're projecting the very thing they're doing. So which means he's probably taking either Trump or Biden's words, and just because they say it, everything they say else is wrong. You know what I mean? He's probably doing the very thing he's claiming we're doing or somebody else is doing. He's probably doing it. Because it's usually projecting.
Oh,
It is projecting. That's exactly what it is.
He's definitely projecting. Like I said, the first thing I heard him say when I came in here was these people are acting out of emotion. And listen to what he's been saying this whole time. This is affecting him emotionally very hard.
Comments at PJ Media, you know, my 4-day-a-week job when I'm not here with you guys having so much fun. And it's the every election is now stolen crowd. If I'm writing anything about any kind of election, it doesn't matter what the topic is, how far away it is from us. Does election fraud occur? But the point that isn't addressed is it's not easy to steal elections. You can shut things down in the when it doesn't involve places like Atlanta or it's protected by. It didn't matter. We wouldn't have a Republican.
Hi, I'm Michael Conway. I'm the.
What evidence you present, it just doesn't matter. The elections don't matter, crowd. Just show up, and you there's no reason to be done. Yes, Scott.
Is someone trying to get a word in there, or is it them interrupting each
Yeah,
other?
I want to ask you a question. How
Go ahead.
come you keep playing the video over someone talking? You did it 3 times now already. You did the chocolate, you did to me, and you did to someone else.
Yeah, got to keep the show rolling. What you want?
Yeah, but you just say it to us. I mean, it's rude. It's like it's like if someone's going to do that,
Get told off by Brian. I'm
no
sorry.
No point in someone speaking up.
I'm with it, Brian. I'm with it. Word up, Nathan.
I've noticed that you've done that to Brian 3 times. not just
Okay,
today,
bloody
the
hell.
other
Put your
day as
handbags
well.
down.
And I heard him talking.
Okay,
He-
right. Anyway, shout out to Flat Earth Travolta. It says minutes plus equals 240. Thank you very much for the super chat, Flat Earth Travolta. Hopefully the comedic effect of me cutting off Neil was amusing for you.
Wow.
I have a comment about the video, about the actual what he just said.
Go ahead.
The thing is, you know, he says, you know, elections can't be stolen. Okay, what he's trying to say, you should not question any irregularities in the system. Like here in Tennessee, the voting system probably could be very ethical. Does that mean every county in Tennessee is ethical? Which means there could be irregularities or someone trying to fudge the numbers in that county. Do you see what I'm saying? So, like, there's not even a critical analysis that could potentially happen. And right now, there's lawsuits and things coming out that some irregularities were occurring during the election. So you can't. So it's just trying to shut down any kind of form of questioning when you say that. So it's like if you can't even question the government, and also for a lie to really hold true, there's some things that have to be true within it. Because if it's everything about it was a lie, then everybody would, oh, that's a lie. We recognize it. But if there's things that are true in it, then it's more likely to be deceived by it. So which means NASA could do I went and saw a rocket launch. It really happened. I did it. I saw it. So that event was true and had happened. Does that mean
I mean, I have toy rockets too. I can
all.
shoot up in the sky.
Say again, lotion basket.
Yeah, I have toy rockets I can shoot up in the sky too. We can buy them. right?
And
You can have fun with it. You can show people that you're doing it.
I've got a wardrobe. Therefore, Narnia.
Nathan, isn't that
Just
called
to-
a false dichotomy?
This sounds
straw
like a load
man?
of
Because
government
he's saying-
cucks, fearful of what might be, saying we must believe, we must believe, we must trust, we must trust. That's all I hear.
Address anybody who might be listening to this right now and thinking that Steve Green's video feed is being tapped. That's a woodpecker that's hitting the side of his house.
Yes.
And so if you're hearing that, yes, he's being tapped, but it's not by the government.
Exactly. I've learned to filter it out, and
I'm
hopefully
just
my
heading off
audio
the
gets
comments
checkerboarded.
that are going to come and say Steve's needs to stop tapping on his desk.
Scott, let me just sort of. Go ahead. Finish up, Steve. Sorry.
Oh, I was actually no. You go ahead, because I think I know where you're going with this, and it'll dovetail.
Well, just because somebody lies about
painful to say.
Well, what they're doing, hang on, this is an important part. What they're doing, they started with every election stolen crowd, and they dovetailed into this videos being sniped and recorded the government, because we hear some tapping now, but that's really a woodpecker. What are they casting anyone who comes against anything as?
about
Nuts.
something, and maybe because they lie about something.
Yes.
Don't say that.
Something frequently doesn't mean they're lying about everything all the time. But
so there he is. Now he's just pulled apart his straw man. So like when we have it in debate, put up their crappy premise and bolster their crappy premise by saying other people have used the same crappy premise and argument in other sections where they're saying government are wrong. Leave a little gap, talk about something a little bit different, and then take apart the straw man. When there's a sufficient enough gap for you to not remember the lead up and premise that is laid down, that we pulled apart. That's why there's us pausing the video every 25 seconds. Not so much in this video, I've got to be honest. But that's why. Because that's the tactic, isn't it? Now, he's pulled apart the straw man. Right? So, oh, well, obviously, just because they say, or just because they're wrong in one area doesn't mean they're not wrong in every area. Or however he phrased it. I've got that slightly butchered. But you get what I'm paraphrasing.
But here's I think part of
there's that stutter again. Because he knows it's not true.
Problem. Scott,
Elon
several
Musk.
years ago.
Yeah.
So back when we were at the previous establishment, I got called to jury duty, and I was selected for the jury, and we got in the room, we voted for foreman, and I was elected foreman. And what I found among the jurors, and this would be 2008 or 9 or 10, somewhere around there, so a while ago, was that the police would issue their testimony, and clearly the instructions were, you must make your decision based on what you hear in the courtroom. And I encountered a great deal of, the police are lying.
Yeah.
And I would say, okay, well, what evidence do you have that they're lying?
Fair enough so far. Couldn't agree more. If people are in a jury saying, well, they're the police, therefore they're lying, which is the standard he has laid down and I've called a straw man. Not exactly the same, but it reasonably parallels. I'll give him props. Okay. Then you ask them for the evidence. Perfectly reasonable. I think we'd all agree.
Well, it's because because police lie all the time. What I was able to put my finger on, Scott, is that when you have watched movies and TV shows, you're
all right. What evidence have you got that they based it on TVs and movies? Was it told to you? Was the evidence that you're now going to base this on going to be presented? Let's see.
Entire life where there's a twist at the end where what you think is going to happen, nope, turns out that the whole thing was...
Yeah, that's what happens in TVs and movies. Now you're going to tell us how that is why they distrust the police, isn't it? You're going to present evidence like you've just standardized, right? Let's see.
Exact opposite of what you thought. If you feed that to people for their entire lives, they will be looking for the...
No, not if. You just laid this down as an evidentiary standard you haven't fulfilled. This is why people distrust the police, according to you. Now it's being prefaced with an if statement. That's why he's stuttering. This guy knows the broad strokes of the bullshit plan he's got, and he's just executing it poorly. That's what he's doing. No. Maybe you should have asked them why they distrust the police. And when they say, here's a demonstrated standard of where a policeman lied, You might think, oh, so people lie. Some people have got jobs as policemen. Shocking, innit? Yeah, there may be evidentiary standards that they could have laid down that showed that policemen who are men lie. Because they do. They're people. Yeah, it might not be the case, like you say, in this particular instance. But your crappy straw man's not getting better. It's getting worse. Shout out to Vlad on Flat Earth. Extend the show if possible. Thank you. How many we got watching? Got 115 watching, Vlad. If you can share the show and get another 5 to 10 people watching, then maybe we will. Thank you for the super chat.
Hey, listen up here. Notice what's happening here. He just said when you feed the people for their entire life, well, space has been fed to us our entire life.
Yeah, he's making he's projecting out our argument. He's saying if you feed people bullshit all their life, they'll accept the bullshit, right?
The twist, where there isn't a twist, we become a culture to this. We become desensitized to the idea that sometimes things really are the way they seem.
Yeah. What, like space, the sky vacuum, like traveling, like fighting in it, like Star Wars, like Star Trek, like Buck Rogers. Like we just get softened up to the idea that the sky is actually a vacuum in violation of natural law and we can travel places in it because we see it on TV and movies. Yeah, that's shocking, isn't it? I mean, while we could explain the ideas and notions of how people become programmed, we don't need to. You know, we don't need to appeal to these crappy arguments when we say that the sky's not a vacuum, it violates natural law. That's the end of our argument. We don't need to say, and people believe it because they've been softened up to it with predictive programming. No, that's not necessary. Just debunk the sky vacuum and that's it, walk away laughing. And then you can contemplate, you've been deceived into believing it was true when it violated natural law. I'll have to tell you. But you're using it as an argument now, aren't you? Yeah, how sad.
And when you've seen so many episodes of so many movies and TV shows where at the end you go, I thought...
Star Trek, Star Wars, Buck Rogers. Yeah. People get very softened up to the idea that they can travel to the moon.
I thought this guy did it, but it turned out it was that guy.
Nathan.
Go ahead, Brian. I would hate to interrupt you. I'm going on mute.
Great. This guy is having a go at people, right? He's having a go at people because he's saying that they believe that the police, because this is what he's saying, that they believe that police were lying because they watch too much TV. That's his estimation, right? Why does he believe in space and the moon landing? Is it because of movies and programming through TV and movies?
It can only be because of movies. He hasn't gone to the moon. He hasn't gone to space. His only primary, in his mind, source of information in this regard is movies. Literally. He can't evidence his standard with anything else at all. It's pure projection.
If you're a snorer, you need to hear this.
Really bad.
Regular anti-snoring products.
I saw this in the jury room. When you started questioning these people, they say, well, he couldn't have done it. I mean, why? Well, because it's obvious that he did it. I mean, there's so much evidence that he did it. That means he couldn't have done it. Right?
That's right.
This sounds like bullshit again. It sounds like you're just making this up. If somebody said to me, look at... Why am I even denying this? In the crazy topsy-turvy world of flat earth debate, this does actually happen. I was about to say, how nuts, how can you possibly have that case? It is the case. People will present your evidence that you've debunked their claim with back to you as though it's a defense of their own claim. And you're like, no, that's my evidence to debunk your claim. You're presenting it back to me. like that's somehow going to win your point. It isn't. So I can't really...
It is a strategy.
Yeah, that is a strategy
that they can use to basically, for people that don't really understand it all, but are just going to go by their trust, they'll get confused up. So it's really a trick for the ignorant listeners to switch around the argument. So just to confuse them. It's literally sowing confusion.
It's like us saying...
It's a tactic.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, a tactic, definitely.
It's like us saying you can't measure the geometric horizon. And you'd need to assert geometry. And then coming back to us going, well, that's because you can't measure the geometric horizon. That's the kind of thing we're talking about.
Because
it's all
Go on, Brian first.
He's changing the intonation. It's like, that's because you can't measure the geometric horizon. It's the lifting of the voice.
Right.
You should already know that.
No, exactly. Yeah, you, globe believer, you cannot measure the geometric horizon. Response from globe believer. Yeah, but that's because you can't measure the geometric horizon. Just a change in tone.
Well, setup. Because the writer
Just
of a
one
TV
thing,
series would have set you up in that manner.
Precisely.
Yeah, that's exactly how they would have structured the story to steer everything so that you believe that guy did it when he didn't really do it, and then there would be that turn at the end, and you would.
Well, that is kind of what a lawyer's job is. I mean, they are just detailing what a lawyer does. Like, both sides have to be true then if this standard applies unilaterally. So the defense are only painting a picture of it not being the case because it's true. Well, they're only painting a picture of it not being the case with evidence because it is, would be the standard in reverse. It's like, no, this doesn't apply in either event. It's a stupid argument. No one's going to ever look at you and go, look, we've got the clearly dripping knife with blood on it. We've got him standing over the corpse, laughing, and a filmed video of the murder. Obviously, he didn't do it. There's so much evidence to show he did. It's an orgy of evidence. He couldn't possibly have done it. Nobody's ever going to lay down that
Because I
standard.
saw it in a movie.
It's just stupid.
Would be shocked. Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think people are manipulated by TV. I also wonder how much of a role, frankly, people like us played in it.
Projecting again immediately. He's a chain gun projector. It's like scatter gunning his projections one after another. Da, 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 da.
These two remind me of the old guy, the Muppets, the two old guys from the Muppet Show. That's what I feel like I'm listening to.
Wait a second, Nathan. 1 second. They're saying that people are manipulated by TV. You're darn straight. They were manipulated into believing that they landed on the moon. We all know that's a violation of natural law. So he's correct on that.
Well, he's actually wrong. I forget the stat, but we're year 1 or 2 into this Math Powerland laid this down. Again, I don't want to just make up the statistic, but back in '69, how many people do you think had television sets? Do you think they were everywhere in everybody's house? No. So, obviously, there was a fair percentage of people that believed the moon landing because they heard it on the radio, not watched it on TV.
That's right. In that time, it was the middle class that had televisions, and then like the neighbors would come over to watch it with them. Right?
What?
Because not everybody had one yet.
Didn't something very similar to that happen before that? What was it called? War of the Worlds?
That's
right.
So,
Well, War of the Worlds stands out because it's uncommon to the modern man in this time. Whereas at the time, the difference in terms of how you use propaganda and programming in this regard was no different for radio broadcasts than it was for TV broadcasts. So the methodology remained exactly the same. So if you're going to test the waters with how somebody reacts to a movie, you just find out and ask them. You let them watch it for free and you ask them what they thought of it, and that's it. It's really easy, right? So you just do that with a propaganda movie and you find out how accepting somebody is of the notion of Superman flying around the sphere Earth. Did they comment on that as being very unbelievable when they saw it? Or did they just say, Superman was great, it was wonderful when he propped back up the dam? Which bits do they just accept? Well, the same is true with radio. If you can time it such like they did with War of the Worlds, where you miss the intro where it very explicitly states that it's a drama, or a sci-fi drama, and you just tune in after the ball game and listen in, and it sounds like the world's being invaded, and you accept it wholeheartedly. When you turn the volume down, metaphorical volume in terms of the over-the-top nature, scratch everything I've just said. I'm going to refer you all to a channel called Dilly Gill, DILLY space GILL, Dilly Gill. And Dilly Gill breaks down how NASA have got away with the fakery of space on the sets and the sound stages and the trapezes and the high wires. How have they managed to do that? Well, they've done it by finding out what people will accept, in this example on the radio. but an easier example is in Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever it is, Buck Rogers. What will people accept? Then turn that down metaphorically in terms of the scale and the impact of what's being shown. Now, Dilly Gill describes that as playing their hand very close to their chest. And what he means by that is you play the drama up at the movies. You have an intergalactic war with laser beams coming out of the front of spaceships and people holding lightsabers. It's very over the top, hammy even. You know, it's melodrama in some parts of it, right? Now, if people will accept that when they know they're suspending disbelief, something that's far less dramatic, like opening a TV dinner whilst on a trapeze, which is what you get from NASA, will be far easier to accept by the general public. So that's what they've figured out with radio, with TV, with anything that's predictively programming you and softening you up to something that inevitably will happen. They've already figured out what you will tolerate mentally, how far you are prepared to push the suspension of disbelief. And then they just tone it back 2 or 3 notches. Then you'll definitely accept it.
But that's not what I mean. I mean, I'm not talking about in 1969. I'm talking about all years after that they showed it on TV. That had an influence on a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Was that it?
Well, what I would say is when people did get a television and did have the opportunity to see a TV, what they were looking forward to seeing was one of the television stations playing the moon footage.
Correct.
That's one of the main things people wanted to see if they hadn't seen it.
Because we are, in large part, social critics. We are constantly evaluating what happens in the news, and we're critical of the government. And we're unlikely to do a story, although we've done some over the years, that is, like, attaboy, government, good job. So if you looked at the
I would if they'd give me a chance.
If you look at the preponderance of stories that we've done, in some way, the governance of your program, whatever, there's this whole long list. Necessarily we do it disingenuously, but the things that we focus on tend to attention to that. Meanwhile, a couple of million government employees and about the fact that the whole thing was faked. It's like, oh yeah, well, let me just tell you confidentially, I was the guy who opened the door to the dome where Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin went into the simulated lunar landscape thing where we actually changed the gravity inside the dome. like nobody broke. In all those years, not a single person said, yeah, well, it was all fake.
What, other than some cosmonauts and a few astronauts who've since come forward? There's a few people who have definitely come forward, said that it's fake.
And a guy recently who said his father worked in the facility, a guy who was dying of cancer.
Right. So there has been people who've whistleblown.
Well, in any case, I think...
Hi, Johnny here for Chaos Cards, and on this week's TCG Minute, we have a massive Pokemon release to...
Everything in the media conspires to have you believe there's going to be a twist. That somebody is lying.
We're being gaslit.
We're being gaslit. We can't trust anybody. I frankly don't believe it's true.
But we can trust we went to the moon. So we can't trust the media, even though you've only received media information about going to the moon. None of them are to be trusted. We're being gaslit, but the moon landings are real. Okay, that logic makes perfect sense.
True. I believe two things.
What he said
Number one,
Nathan, just 1 second. What he said is that he laid out that everyone thinks they're being lied to. Everyone thinks everything is a lie. And he said, just at the end, I frankly don't believe it's true. So we've got your belief to go on then. What you believe, which is a nothing. What I believe means nothing to someone else. So that's his standard, his own belief.
Most people, including people I don't like and people who disagree with me, are trying to do the best they can in the circumstances in which they find themselves. And number two...
Who cares? Yeah, I'm trying to do the best I can in the circumstances that befall me. I'm very poor. Whoopee-doo! So does that mean that I'm wrong when I say that the sky vacuum is a second law of thermodynamics violation? Yeah, I get that all the time. people in my comments, I'll point out that the gravity's not real and gas doesn't go down. And they'll point out how poor I am or call me an e-beggar. Like, is that a rebuttal?
The argument he gave earlier, the argument he gave earlier about the person letting Neil Armstrong in the hatch, etc. So does he think that 95 or 90% of NASA employees have that exact duty to open up the hatch? I mean, it's compartmentalized. And so he's making this statement like, how can all these people be in on it? Now, that in itself, you got to prove that they were all there when the hatch was open, if you're going to say that. But they weren't. They had their own jobs. They're in this room doing this thing. They're not seeing it for what's happening. The small group knows.
People never heard of the Manhattan Project?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that thing, like things like that happen, but people are still with the why would they lie? Oh, the lie is too big.
The Montauk Project?
Yeah, all types of projects. Like, are you kidding me? Like, these people still exist? People think, like, it's crazy because earlier he said something like, "Oh, I wished all the videos that I've made against the government were all, oh, great job, government," which means you've criticized the government, which means there are times when you feel like the government is not 100% truthful to you. But this is the same thing you're criticizing everybody else for. This guy's full of shit.
All liars. Every last one of us, including me. In the right circumstance, we will shade, we will bend, we will curve the truth in order to not offend somebody, in order to accomplish an objective that we care about, in order to shield ourselves from criticism, or whatever. We have all the rationalizations that go through our minds. And, it comes down to the Bible is not wrong when it says all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. And so when I look out at government officials, what I see is a bunch of sinners like me, probably trying to do the best they can, but still screwing up.
That's the most truest words you said so far. Hold on, why are you laughing?
I'm laughing because of the fact that he just screwed up saying it's just a screw
You're breaking up.
He
You're
didn't
breaking up.
actually go
You're
there.
breaking up. You're breaking up, tenth man.
Yeah, I understand what Tent is saying. It's like, look, they're just making mistakes, they're just screwing up. It's like, no, they're not just screwing up. These people are very aware of what they're doing and what they're supporting or not supporting. They're not just screwing up and getting things wrong. That is not what they're doing.
I still haven't come across the point where you stop projecting,
Yeah, no. And I have something else to say. Chocolate only barely finished what he was saying before you played the video the last time there, Nathan. So we're keeping a track of this.
Okay.
We're watching you.
Okay.
All right, I'm back. See what I was going to comment on?
You're not that much better, but see if you can.
Sound brilliant.
Let's see if we can get through it. Everyone else go on mute.
No, I was going to say he's saying, yeah, we all screw up, we all shade the truth, we all lie. And that's a problem because we all do that, right? But he's making this whole state program
transform and roll out.
Outstanding. I agree.
10, you got to readjust your satellites.
Stupid space balloon. I should have bought a germ balloon.
I should have went Russian.
Times intentionally, just like I do. And so I'm not as quick to judge harshly. And that's why I don't think, I think it would be more work. That should be the third principle. People are lazy. It's too much work to fake a moon landing.
Not if the paycheck is right.
Can you guys talk about that for 2 or 3 minutes while I do something?
Opposed to actually doing something that is impossible?
No, but that's funny that he said that because it's the same thing like Neil deGrasse Tyson says with the fuel, right? You're gone there because the amount of fuel that was purchased, I think he said. What did he say, Chocolate?
The amount of fuel that they use.
Because we were able to calculate how much fuel it took to go to the moon and back. That's how we know we went to the moon and back.
let me ask you a question. What would take more effort, right, from the US, from the US government and military? World War II or faking the moon landing? He said it would be too difficult. So it's more difficult than World War II, building all those ships and tanks and everything else. Go on.
I've heard that before. This is one of those. What was the? I think it was Kosho years ago. Said it would be more expensive to fake it than to actually go.
Yep, I remember that. You're right,
Can you believe somebody who thinks they're rational says something like that? It would cost less to fake it than to actually go.
Yeah, and I wonder what he was basing that on. Yeah.
Well, there was the inflatable tanks versus the real tanks made of steel. It's much more expensive to make the rubber tanks than the steel ones.
That checks out.
Yeah, it's just any war.
Well,
It
and
can be an
the
war, any
graphic
war.
animators, like any graphic animator that is a decent person that doesn't, lie to massive amounts of people, they have the skill to make that fakeness happen, and if they come to them and say, hey, we're going to need you to lie to everybody, well, these graphic animators are going to be like, well, how much are you going to pay me? And if you have 7, 8 of them, I mean, that can rack up $100 million, $200 million added in just a moment, and then you got to get everybody else to go along with it. And those people, if they're decent people, they're also going to say, well, how much are you going to pay me to keep my mouth shut?
What did Buzz Aldrin say to that child?
The
question is that we
interview now. Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't hear Tim Smith's question.
I said, what did Buzz Aldrin say to that child?
Oh,
yeah. Because we didn't
He
go.
said we didn't actually go.
Did he also told in a
did-
talk show like you didn't see it on TV? I mean, was what they
I
saw
was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
But did he mean
Conan
that
O'Brien.
they didn't actually go back? Or did he mean they didn't actually go? Because the way I listened to it, it sounds like he's saying they didn't actually.
'Cause
Why
we
didn't they
never
go
went.
back? I don't know.
No, he's saying
because
we didn't
we
go
never
back because
did,
we didn't
and
actually
that's the
go
way
in
it
the first
happened.
place.
When there's a video of Donald Trump talking about Space Force, and Buzz Aldrin is right behind him, and the way Buzz Aldrin looks, it's like he wants to say, "Oh my God, these people are full of shit," but it's like he's so scared that he can't say anything because dead, right? And in the Conan interview, Conan's like, "Oh yeah, we were watching it on TV." And Buzz Aldrin says, "No, you didn't. You were watching animation, and people didn't have a lot of people didn't have TVs." And then Conan says I think it was, "Oh, well, yeah, because we were listening to it on the radio." Well, did you have a TV then, Conan, or was that just a bunch of lies? But now you see Buzz Aldrin, and it's like he wants to tell everybody, because I genuinely think Buzz Aldrin's when you get that old and your time is up, you get these older people get scared about if they don't know about God, if they don't know about these things, and they get scared. And as far as they've been indoctrinated to lie to massive amounts of people, well, there's a place for you that if you've constantly done that all your life.
They're saying the
feel me?
same thing about Ringo Starr. They're saying that Ringo Starr wants to spill the beans that Paul McCartney actually did die in 1966. Just another conspiracy.
Right. And just one thing with you guys were talking about elections, and in Michigan, it's generally a Republican state. Okay. I've met tens of thousands of people, maybe even 100,000 people I've met in Michigan. Not one of them likes Joe Biden. None of these people. I mean, occasionally you see the person driving around in their convertible with a mask on, and you know who they voted for. But everybody else, they don't like the guy. They didn't vote for the guy. Nothing.
I don't think we talk about
Like
this,
these people don't exist.
It's all gone very political.
Sorry, it's just from what I've seen.
Well, can we just go back onto the Buzz Aldrin point?
We can, after I do another quick shout out to Paul and the people who supported me on GoFundMe, as I can't believe it's arrived within 10 hours of ordering it, but the amplifier I spoke about earlier has literally arrived during the show. My wife just humped it in. So I thought, oh, sod it, I'll unbox it live. Why not? Thank you very much for all of you who supported me on GoFundMe. The campaign's still running, so I do actually want to replace all of the old amps that I've got. They're about 10 to 20 years old. And this one is great, and hopefully I can get another 2 if you do support me on the GoFundMe campaign. Thanks in advance, and thanks if you've supported me up until now, and another thank you to Paul. But carry on. We have got 125 people watching live, so I may carry on live for a little bit, and we'll just shorten the after show, rather.
Brian's next.
Yeah, well, all I was going to say about the Buzz Aldrin question was I don't think Buzz Aldrin is scared. I think Buzz Aldrin knew at the start what he was going along with. But I think he just, at this stage, just wants to let the world know it's not real, lads. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he's scared. I don't think he's under threat. I just think that he just wants to say to the world, look, it's not real. It was never real. Cop on.
Well, he wants to, yeah. It shows in his face. But the scared comes in is if he does say it.
Well, I think he's already said it a couple of times by what he said on Conan O'Brien and with that little girl and other things. I just think that he's waiting for the world to cop on to the fact, look, and just accept it didn't happen. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he's scared. I don't think he has much to fear. I don't think he's too bothered at this stage.
We were just passengers taking a flight, man. Don't ask us. Buzz Aldrin, copping, please.
The radiation wouldn't affect them because they didn't know about it.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a real hero, right? Asked about his heroic mission, and all he's doing is copping, please. Don't ask me what that footage is about. We were just passengers taking a flight. No, weren't you the guys? Like, you're the heroes, guy. You're not just some guy they put in a tin can and sent over there, right? So now all of a sudden, you're scared. Like that video was so like just I don't know. It's just too funny watching these guys squirm after all that.
Of course they're scared. They know that they can't ever win in a face-to-face debate. They can only win within this system they've created, this tradition of talking and ways of going about. And in that, they can justify it all. And as long as everybody around them agrees and everybody out there agrees and adopts it, then it's all good. But we, flat earth debaters, have real arguments. They're terrified of it, so they can never touch it. They can only project their own discomfort and issues onto the other side, which has become a complete straw man in every form, including in sizing up who these people are that are opposing them, the flat earthers. They don't know that. They don't know any flat earthers. They forget about them very quickly.
A show that Bill Whittle put on that we're reviewing is titled "Make It Stop." What's he trying to stop?
Did you do a bit more of the video?
People questioning the moon landing.
Steve, you got anything you want to check into that?
Oh, sorry.
To this whole, anything you want to check into this whole idea of the twist? There's got to be a twist.
Yeah, I mean, my first memory of that, this is going way back. The 70s was maybe the original high for paranoid thrillers. And I remember seeing on the big screen, I was probably about 9 years old, 8 years old, Capricorn 1, which was about the faked Mars landing and the astronauts deciding to bail on it. And then you've got, the government gunmen hunting down the astronauts one by one before any of them can reach the press and tell them that the launch was faked yesterday or whatever it was. And actually, one of my favorite jokes of all time came out of that movie, the squirrel joke. I'll tell you guys sometime.
Interesting is talking about Capricorn 1, although if you've seen Capricorn 1, you'll appreciate that it is the story of the moon landing being faked. They just call it Mars, but it's the same story.
Maybe on Backstage next week. In any case, so I was raised on that. It was always just an element of movie making when I was a kid, and there's so much more of it now. But I think the real poison is social media, and I know it's easy to pound on that, but it's because so much of it is true. The anonymity doesn't just tend to bring out the worst in a lot of people, and I think people already tend that way. But those are the voices that get magnified, and because of that, discussions that we used to have. My best friend in high school was a communist, and all we did was argue. It was fun.
Right, I think that's probably going to be where I'll round out the live show. So with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hit me up on the GoFundMe campaign and all that good stuff. Also, a shout out to D Rose, who smashed the super chat while I was presumably unboxing my new amplifier. He says, at Supreme Knowing, jack shit, why don't you enter Discord and put your money where your mouth is? Providing gas goes downward, goes boom boom, or shh. Thank you very much indeed, D Rose, for the super chat. Was there any else I missed? Just have a quick scroll back up through the chat, see if I missed any others while I was doing that unboxing. Lad on Flat Earth, extend the show, please. Yeah, I read that one. Another massive thank you to all of you. Stay tuned if you're watching on After Show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!